Good evening and welcome to the State of Scottish Football. It's Tuesday evening. Of course, 3 days ago we picked up a fantastic victory over Israel. And tonight, we're back. We're back. It's Torshavn for Scotland this evening, away to the Faroe Islands. As you can tell from myself, Colin and Craig's faces, we're absolutely buzzing for this game this evening. You can't take the smile off our faces. And guys, it's probably just awards after the momentum. But before I start the questions, we are, of course, sponsored by Etiv Watches, not Etiv Watches, as I proposed last Tuesday night. So let's get that out there first and foremost. Etiv Watches. I'm led to believe the YouTube link is still up and running. Obviously, if you're a subscriber, there's an opportunity to win a nice watch. Obviously, it was advertised by the lovely Mr. Colin on Friday. But Craig, I'm going to start with yourself here. Momentum, a big thing in football, and there's certainly momentum after both the Austria result and the result on Saturday.
Oh, definitely. The result on Saturday was huge. You know, the way the sort of narrative of the game played out, it was almost like it was going to be another one of those days for us. You know, the days that we've seen, you know, in club football and international football. But I don't think you can overstate how vital scoring a goal at that point of the game is. You know, if that had came in the 80th minute, say, it would have still been good. But the feeling of it is exemplified even more by it being in the, you know, basically they've not got a chance to come back. You know, I know all about 90-minute winners at Hampden, you know, to win 3-2. So I know exactly how that feels as a club fan. And that feeling on Saturday was just unbelievable. And it's something that can really, you don't want to say kickstart because we don't need to kickstart our campaign, but it gives a whole different mood going into tonight, you know, than if it had finished 2-2.
Absolutely. Colin, I'm going to focus on the Faroes here before we divulge into Scotland. Comments came in here from David Kelly saying Faroes have improved a lot recently, but we have a squad packed with EPL talent, that's English Premier League of course. If we want to be taken seriously as a football nation again, we should win this comfortably. I agree with what you're saying, David, but also never token, we can't underestimate the Faroes here.
No, I think you're right, and I think out of the two games we've got coming up prior to the Denmark game, I think this is the biggest banana skin out of the lot. If Scotland's going to do a Scotland, this is probably the one where we're going to slip up. I don't think we will. I think we've got too much of a momentum going, as you said. The team, whoever it is going to be playing tonight. It's probably going to be too good for Faroes, but we shouldn't underestimate them. We shouldn't just expect to go across there and get the 3 points. Folk are saying it's going to be 4, 5, 6-0. I don't think it will be as much as that. I think it will end up being comfortable. But I think if we can come away with a 2 or 3-0 win, I think we'll do well. And as I said, if we underestimate them, it will be at our own peril.
I'll put the record straight here, Craig, by saying we've probably got a better team than we do in 2002. However, we do not want to repeat 2002, most certainly.
No, definitely not. And I think there's, you could probably look at Scotland squads, more recent times, and maybe think that this would be a game that the players could potentially look at as, we're going to go over there and win 3, 4 or 5. I don't think the character of the squad right now allows that. I think there's far too many, like's been said, we've got too many players playing at the top level of, football. Not just, you've got Robertson at Liverpool, Tierney at Arsenal, Gilmore, I know he's on loan, but Chelsea, they're arguably 3 of the biggest clubs in Europe at the moment. Probably the world, actually. And their standards will not allow a game like this to sort of, be looked at as, we just need to turn up and beat them. Because as we've seen, we've been to the Faroes and drew. You remember the games against sort of like Liechtenstein at home where it took us to the 90, what felt like the 100th minute to score. So no, I don't think this squad will let that sort of type of complacency creep in, and I think they will go out there and do a professional job.
I think Steve Clark. Sorry, I just want to jump in. I think Steve Clark's probably got a lot to do with that as well. I think he'll have them well drilled. They'll make sure that there's no complacency involved as well. So I think he's going to take a lot of credit for the squad's kind of characteristics as well.
Now, I must say, Scotland have already picked up a very good victory in the in the Faroes today. Let me just go and get it for you. Right, it ended. The Faroe Islands fans won. The Tartan Army select 8. Right, and the reason why I knew about this game is because a good friend of mine, Collins in particular, Mr. James McQuay from the Beyond Book Canal Park podcast, he was playing in this game today. So here's hoping we can get a bit of good luck charm heading into this game this evening.
Scored 2 as well, I think, today.
John, yes he did. Yes he did. So it's a very good victory for Scotland. Here's hoping that on the main stage we can keep that going. But just with regards to tonight, it's about Saturday was a good springboard call, but it's about making sure we're not having that springboard and then collapsing. Yeah,
absolutely. I think what we said before is that if we try and avoid doing a Scotland, this is the game. There's no point in getting that hard 3 points, getting that 3-2 victory on Saturday, and then just completely throwing it away, because it just gives Israel the momentum back to them going into the final 2 fixtures. Because what we don't want is to go into the last game playing against Denmark and having to get someone. Even though I think by that then Denmark will have already qualified, so they might not be just playing a full team. But you don't want to take things for granted, as I said. Just go there, play the way that we have been, and just take the game to them and try and, if at all possible, try and get an early goal as well. I think that will just kind of calm the nerves as well.
Absolutely. Now, Craig, I need to ask, is your knowledge meticulous in the Faroe Islands, or?
I read an article on Maurice Ross the other day, but that's about as far as it goes.
Okay, can I just ask a question about if you know a guy called Omar Faroe?
Can't say I do.
Colin?
No, you lost me.
Omar Faroe played for Bankside Junior Football Club, who are based in Aberdeen, me and Colin's neck of the woods, and he played for Keith FC in the Highland League. So we've got, and I think Beyond Canal Park, whilst we're mentioning them, I think they actually spoke to Omar in their previous show. So that's one player to look out for. But another player to look out for is Clement Olsen. He plays for NSI Runavik, and he scores goals, Colin. But sorry, Craig. But it's important from a Scotland point of view that we keep a clean sheet tonight, Craig.
Oh, definitely. The Faroes are effectively what you would describe the minnows. Amongst the minnows of European football. The way that the other countries look at these games as sort of almost like cannon fodder, and not in a disrespectful way at all. But the level of player, like you've described, a player playing for the Faroes who played Highland League football. That's the sort of opposition that we're up against. So yeah, it is vitally important not only to be proactive going forward, but making sure we stay tight at the back, because given them a goal, and they could just quite happily sit on the edge of their box for however long after they if they score, and just leather away anything that comes. So no, it's just as important keeping it tight at the back as it is going forward. One
player that doesn't really score a lot of goals at club level, but and doesn't really score a lot of goals at international level either, but he plays for a very good side, is Joan Simon, if I've got that right, Edmondson, who plays for...
You're having a night, aren't
you? who plays for Arminia Bielefeld in the Bundesliga, which... Yeah, Scotland are expected to go win this game tonight and win no problem, but it just tells you that the Faroes have some good players individually.
Yeah, I think if you kind of look back at the Faroes and teams like that maybe 20 years ago, I think we probably would have expected to beat them quite comfortably. I think they were fairly new. Most of them were all sort of part-time, but I think what's been the positive route of these kind of qualifiers as they've kind of progressed is they are showing signs of progression, and a lot of people will argue that teams like the Faroes and that shouldn't be playing at this kind of level. Teams like Scotland, England, and the rest of that kind of nations should be having their own kind of qualification. We should be bumping into these guys, but I think what you see is that they've progressed and they are making progress every time these qualifiers come up as well. So, kind of repeating myself a little bit, we shouldn't be underestimating them at all. But it's just interesting to see just how these nations are improving, and they're playing for teams like Sir Keith, for example. So they're obviously doing quite well.
Absolutely. And I mean, if they're playing for sides such as, I don't, just to clarify, he doesn't play for Kiefer Bugsney anymore. I mean, he played for him in the past. But
the Highland League's a good. The Highland League's a good a marker for your career, like.
Definitely. But then here's the thing: the tabloids will be in the papers tomorrow morning if we get beat tonight, saying, "Oh, we got beat by a player that used to play for Bugsney, didn't we?"
Yes.
So, with regards to tonight's game, Craig, is possession and midfield dominance an important thing? Just because we're probably going to have a lot of the ball tonight.
I think so, and I think it's not just a case of having the ball for the sake of having it. You know, it's having it and moving it into the right areas. Obviously, it remains to be seen what kind of side Steve Clarke puts out. But we've definitely got the quality. You know, no matter who's in that midfield, whether it be McGinn, McGregor, Gilmore, if McTominay goes back forward, you know, there's certainly forward-thinking players there that'll be able to carry the ball 10, 15, 20 yards and get us higher up the park. So I don't want to sit and watch us tonight just going for Robertson to Tierney to Hanley to Cooper or to Patterson and whatever, going side to side. I want to see us keeping the ball in good areas but also being forceful when we've got it in terms of attacking.
Absolutely. Of course, it must be said that Scotland can easily Scotland can easily finish second altogether tonight, but I don't think that's the mentality we should be having. And I think if I was to go and put that, well, I've put it out publicly now, but I think if I was to tell everybody in the pub that, I think I'd be shot for 6. So there you go. With regards to tonight, there's a lot of permutations with regards to the team, but it'll be interesting to see what team gets put out. But with regards to how the game will set up, would you like to play the same system again, Cole?
Yeah, I think if the way things are going, I think Steve Clarke's got himself a formation, he's got himself a system that he knows works, and he's got the players that can play in that system, so just stick with it. The only thing, obviously, with Che Adams not being available, I think it'll be a case of it'll be one off of Dykes rather than playing alongside him, but other than that, I think it'll be the virtually the same sort of 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, whatever way you want to put it.
Absolutely. Keep your comments in, much appreciated. Like I say, the team lines haven't came out, so we're going to go into a bit of an opinion here now. Matt McIver's came in here. Craig said Christian Hanley and for Adams and Hendry, in my opinion. Keep things fresh. Hendry will be great for us, but Hanley deserves minutes this double header too. Would you agree with that?
I would think so. I think Hanley's been much improved at international level over the last sort of couple of years under Steve Clarke. He was almost a bit of a maligned figure at times, you know, like looked at as a bit of a joke figure playing for Scotland. But no, he's definitely improved. And I think, you know, if somebody like Hanley's importance to the team definitely deserves minutes of some sort. You know, you can argue like this sort of almost like the filler type players. Maybe I'll get the last 15, 20 minutes or so. But somebody for Hanley deserves to be starting. In terms of Christie, I would maybe show a bit of club bias, but I would like to see Nisbet get a run out alongside Dykes, just purely because he's, you know, got a goal at Ibrox just before the international break. He seems to be sort of coming out that early season dip that he had. But I could understand the argument for Christie playing off Dykes instead of Nisbet playing up alongside him.
I'm going to stick with yourself here, Craig, because I just remembered something that Nisbet told the press. He's wanted to take penalties if he starts tonight, and obviously Scotland get a penalty. Would you be happy with that?
The early penalty Nisbet Hibs, yes. After him, I think it was against Hearts when he missed his first one, and then he maybe missed 2 or 3 after that. I might be wrong, but ever since then Boyle's been on them. So no, I like that a striker backs himself. I'm a firm believer of your penalty taker should be your striker, regardless of what form they're in, what kind of striker they are. For me, I think this is just a weird football opinion I've got, but your main striker should be taking your penalties, and if it's no longer Dykes, then I would be comfortable with Nisbet stepping up.
Scott McTominay calling his game Steve Clarke a welcome headache, and the question is, with Grant Hanley returning, would you play him? Do you play him in defence or do you play him up the park?
Well, I've got him playing, and I've got him playing in midfield instead of Gilmore. So I think I would certainly bring in Hanley. Just brings in that little bit extra experience, obviously a bit more fresh as well, and throw McTominay back into midfield. I know Gilmore I was raving about him last night on last night's show, but I just think it's I think it's a different kind of game, and I think we're better off with having McTominay in midfield, but still having McGinn, McGregor, and alongside him.
I'm going to stick with a northeast twist here. I did listen to the podcast, but I'm led to believe the guys at Two Blokes and a Mic were on about Phil Foden last week, and the fact that Pep Guardiola's managed him, just in the sense he's obviously still a young player, he's a top talent, and Gilmore is a bit like Foden in that respect. But is it about managing him just so he's not playing too many games?
Yeah, I think if you. He is still relatively young. Let's be honest. He hasn't played much games at club level, for a long period of time. I know he's at Norwich and he's doing okay there, but in terms of playing at the highest level, he hasn't really done it yet. So it's about not overexposing him too much and not overplaying him, because what he'll end up doing is he'll just get exhausted physically, mentally, and what will happen is his performances will start to dip. We've already got an expectation of him, especially after his exploits down at Wembley. We shouldn't expect that too often, but I think if we manage him well, he will be a Scotland player for years to come.
Absolutely. I'm gonna get onto your guest, the team. I'll give you that a shout in a minute, but another good comment came in here from David Kelly, Craig. The big man's on fire tonight. He's like, can't believe I'm saying this, but Hanley is massive for Scotland now. A huge player for us. He probably is. I mean, Saturday, yeah, we won the game, and that's what everybody will speak about in the end. But the 2 goals, I mean, Sahavi hit a great free kick, but do you feel Hanley would have offered a little bit more stability had he played at the weekend?
I believe so. I mean, Hendry's been so improved as well. I know I said Hanley's, went from sort of one level to another for Scotland, but Hendry has as well. Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that he was practically bombed out of Celtic, sent away to Australia. Now he's playing, in the Champions League, and is it Cercle Bruges? Is it Cercle?
Club Bruges.
Club Bruges, yeah. I knew it was one of them. So yeah, he's came on leaps and bounds, but I think Hanley's experience, he's a Premier League captain. He's been captain in Norwich for a number of years now. He's played a lot of games at the highest level. And I know it's probably been done to death, but I don't think the wall splits as easy as it does if Hanley's there. Between sort of Hendry and McTominay, which is where the heavy shot gets through to get in the back of the net. So I think that Hanley would have given us maybe a bit more composure at the back when we seemed to be sort of a bit panicky, especially with Patterson, who seemed to struggle, for quite large periods of the first half. But no, I agree with the comment. Hanley's absolutely massive for us right now.
Absolutely. Now let's put this 100% straight here. I 100% want Gilmore to start tonight. I've just added my penny forth into comments or chat that Gilmore might not be playing tonight, and another great comments came in here from Tim Collin. These are all fire tonight, troops, so well done. Tim Collin come in here, Collin says Gilmore has to start. Most creative central midfielder we have. Others don't have that creative edge to break down a Pat Fairway's defence, and not just on a Gilmore front here, Colin, but just in terms of how the game could shape up. The Faroe Islands are quite an organised team, and they are quite a sticky team to break down.
Yeah, and I think that's why if you're going to take him out, I think you're won't obviously be a direct replacement. But if you bring in somebody like Christie, who will be probably the more creative kind of player in the team, he'll be difficult to mark. I don't think the Faroes will be able to deal with him, because he drops off deep, he goes wide, he plays through the middle, so he'll be difficult to play against if you're a Faroes player. So I think if you're going to look for creativity, you might get it from him. But let's face it, somebody like John McGinn can come up with the creative kind of style game as well. He's obviously on form with his goals as well, so he'll pop up with maybe a goal as well. So I don't think we're just relying on one person. Yes, I know he's probably one of our better creative players, but as I said, I just think we need to just manage him a little bit better, make sure that we're not overexposing him.
Craig, international and club football's two different things here, and a lot's been made about both Lewis Ferguson in particular and also Kevin Nisbet. And there could be an argument made about, I might be wrong here, but I think it was Scott McKenna as well. But we'll focus on the first two that I mentioned, in Ferguson and Nisbet. Excuse me, I nearly coughed there. And a comment came in from David Kelly saying Tony Watt has doubled the goals that Nisbet has this season in a poorer team. He isn't the form. But the argument I would have, Craig, and you might back me up here, is that international football is an opportunity to do different things, and you're playing in a completely different system to what he'd be up to at Hibs.
Yeah, and also I think what Steve Clarke has shown in terms of his squad selection over a long period of time is that if you get in the squad and establish yourself within the squad, then you'll remain in the squad. I know players like Brophy and Shankland have sort of, dipped out over time, but, Nisbet has, I know it was at a lower level, but he lit up League One with Raith Rovers, He then went on to the Championship and done it with Dunfermline. He then went on to the Premiership and done it with Hibs. He's now making an impact in the Scotland squad. Tony Watt's kind of jumped about here, there and everywhere. Is he potentially just having a wee bit of a purple patch? Whereas Nisbet has proven it over a sort of longer period of time that he can consistently score goals. And in terms of the way that Hibs play compared to Scotland play, we do sometimes play that almost 3-5-2 formation. So it is something that Nisbet is also familiar with. Whether he be playing up with Dykes as he could with Doidge, or if he was to play up with someone like Adams or Christie. I know they're quite different to Boyle, but smaller, more sort of technical players. So I think it could be the sort of continuity thing that keeps Nisbet in the squad over somebody like Watt.
Absolutely. Now I'm a little bit behind, but I promised you guess the team, and we're going to go back to 2006 this evening. Scotland won 6-0 against Faroe Islands. In fact, it was on Saturday the 2nd of September 2006, a time when they had the traditional 3 p.m. kickoffs. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic that we had the 5 p.m. kickoff last Saturday evening, but I'm pretty sure, I'm speaking on behalf of the Tartan Army here, I love a 3 p.m. on a Saturday, or I may be a bit old school, I don't know, but on that game, guys, any idea who played in this game in 2006? There's a few well-kept faces in here.
Was that was a game at Parkhead, wasn't it?
No, Hampden, I think. Oh no, it was Parkhead. Sorry, it was Parkhead. Aye.
So Gary O'Connor, because I know he scored.
He came on, but aye, yeah.
Gary O'Connor, Gary Teal.
He came on at half time, yeah.
So I'll go for the subs first.
Darren Fletcher.
Yep.
Chris Boyd.
Boydie, yep.
Kenny Miller.
Yes.
Davy Weir.
Weir, yep.
Hutton.
Nope.
Oh, Graham Alexander then.
He was on the bench.
Oh, love my subs like.
Can't I think for the goalkeeper is?
With Gordon the goalie? Gordon?
Correct. I was waiting to give you the biggest clue you'll have in your life.
Gordon, and left back, Gary Naismith.
Yeah. The right back, I'll give you a clue. Her sister is a presenter with STV.
His sister is a
presenter with STV. I'll need another clue. He's from Dundee.
From Dundee.
Right back.
Christian Daly.
Oh, Daly.
The centre half played for your rivals, Craig.
Oh, Presley.
Yep. The other centre mid beside Fletcher's the current manager at Cove Rangers.
Paul Hartley.
Yep. The other centre midfielder is nobody will know about, but he's this English player that went to a Scotland jersey.
Nigel Quasi.
Yep. The other midfielder that came on with 6 minutes to go. Used to play for Aberdeen, but now works offshore seemingly.
Oof, now you've narrowed it down.
Barry Robson. Barry Robson?
No, it's 7.
Oh, Scott Severn.
Scott Severn. Oh, aye.
I mentioned Miller, I mentioned O'Connor, you mentioned Boyd. The last one is the Parc de Pran.
Oh, McFadden.
Aye. And any other subs that we didn't use was Neil Alexander, well, you mentioned Graham Alexander, Craig, Russell Anderson, and also Gary Caldwell. So it's quite a strong. Sorry, when you think about it, that was quite a strong Scotland team. No, Lee McCulloch didn't play that game in question, so there we go. But in terms of that, Colin, we'd love a repeat. I mean, that was 6-0 that day for Scotland, and we'd love a repeat this evening.
Yeah, I think we would absolutely be bouncing if it was. I don't think it will be, but I think any kind of victory tonight would be okay. But yeah, dreaming of a 6-0 would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Craig, just with regards to the players that maybe haven't had that much of a chance at club level but have stepped into international football, just basically replicate the question I asked before we came on to the quiz. It was basically a case of players that might not get a chance at club level will go into international football and be a different player altogether.
Yeah, well, it all depends on, when you look at players like you said, Lewis Ferguson, Nisbet, David Turnbull, they're going to be exposed to playing with players at a higher calibre. Ferguson's going for playing alongside probably Scott Brown's not the best example because he's been done what he's done throughout his career, but being exposed to playing with players like John McGinn, Scott McTominay, for example, in the midfield, or even up front, you've got Shea Adams with Nisbet. There's a lot of quality throughout that team, and it can only help going and stepping up and playing with a higher calibre of player. In training, you hear stuff so often about when players talk about the training park. They just watch them and they pick up so many things, even in terms of their habits, for the way they conduct themselves, and it can only bring their level up as well.
Absolutely. Now, you'll be glad to know the remaining 32 minutes of this show will be the easiest 32 minutes I'll have in my lifetime presenting this show, because the team has just been announced for this evening's game. And we've got Craig Gordon goals, we've got Andy Robertson, Scott McTominay, Grant Hanley, Kieran Tierney, John McGinn, Lyndon Dykes, Ryan Christie, Jack Hendry, Billy Gilmore and Ryan Fraser, with the bench being Liam Kelly, John McLaughlin, Stephen O'Donnell, Carl McGregor, Lewis Ferguson, Scott McKenna, Liam Cooper, Stuart Armstrong, David Turnbull, Kevin Nisbet, Nathan Patterson, Kenny McLean. Colin, what's your thoughts?
A few surprises there. I just try to figure out what the formation is going to be. I think it might be 5-2-3 or maybe 5-4-1. Dykes obviously up front and Christie and Fraser playing either side of him perhaps. McTominay going to wing back, but yeah, a couple of surprises. McGinn and Gilmore in the midfield just holding.
Absolutely. Craig?
Surprised at Fraser. Very surprised at Fraser, especially with, but he, maybe this is Clark wanting to almost go on the attack, play him as a right wing back, but let him forgive his, lack of defensive instincts. But no, other than that, I don't think there's. I'm not in the don't play Gilmore camp. I think it can only I think it can only benefit him by playing more games with these type of players. I understand the point about burnout.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
That's not my personal opinion. Just to clarify.
But I'm going on what Colin was. I kind of agree slightly with what Colin was saying, and I can understand the argument for it. But with someone like Gilmore, I think any available minutes he has to play. Go 2-3 up, 55, 60 minutes, then bring him off. But I think he's shown in the short spell that he's been playing for us how important he is, and if we're wanting to sort of build that continuity moving forward, in terms of potentially going into a playoff and into another tournament, we need our main midfielders to be playing together, and whether that be McGinn, Gilmore and McTominay, swap McTominay for McGregor or whatever, I think those four will always be in and around the team in terms of starting anyway, and they need to be playing alongside each other as much as possible.
Absolutely. I'm going to go through the team just now. I'll go through the outfield players to start with, and then I'll focus on the position we all hate but all love at the same time, and that's goalkeeper. But let's focus on outfield players to start off with. And in terms of, we'll start with Andy Robertson. And a lot was made in this discussion last night with regards to Andy Robertson in terms of both Scotland and indeed for Liverpool. But in terms of Saturday night, and he was fantastic for Scotland Saturday evening, and he's probably playing the best international football of his career so far.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it last night about the comparisons of Andy Robertson at Liverpool and Andy Robertson at Scotland. Let's be honest, Salah, Firmino, and Mane aren't playing for Scotland, so the balls that he's whipping in for them are obviously going to be more likely to be finished off than they are by somebody like Lyndon Dykes, and that's no disrespect to Dykes, but I think he's more chance of hitting one of those three than he is the one up front or the two up front than he is at Scotland level. But listen, he gives it his all, as you would expect from a Scotland captain. I think there was a shot of him in the background once the third goal went in, just absolutely battering the ground. You just sense the passion and the pride that he's got for being Scotland captain, and thoroughly deserves to be the captain. And I think sometimes the criticism that he gets is unwarranted at times. I think we've always built him up on a pedestal and just expect him to be playing at the same level all the time. I think even if you're a Liverpool fan, which I'm not, but I'm quite sure that Robertson has bad games for Liverpool as well. But he's in such a good team that it maybe doesn't get noticed so well as it is for Scotland. So if he's not playing well for Scotland, it's maybe a little bit more noticeable. But let's face it, he doesn't play poorly very often.
Would you agree, Craig, that Andy Robertson gives Scotland an extra 10% in a way?
Yeah, and I also think it's like what Colin was saying, we put him on a pedestal. Like, how often was Darren Fletcher, looked at in the same way, or why is he not replicating his Man United form for Scotland? And I think it helps with Robertson that he plays alongside a better overall calibre of player than what Fletcher did. So those comparisons, are not, they're pretty pointless now, in my opinion. But you're right, he does. I think it's like Colin was saying, the footage of, the goal. His first thought isn't to run over to his teammates. His first thought's almost relief, as if to say, oh, thank God for that, because he knew better than most what would have came if we hadn't got the breakthrough in the last minute. And he knows. He plays like someone who knows where he's came from. You know what I mean? Like, we've all heard the story a billion times about how he started at Queen's Park and yada, yada, yada. But, he plays like that. He plays like every game means the world to him. And I think that passion and that attitude towards every game is rubbing off on everybody else. And it can only bring up the other, if Robertson's given us another 10%, it's going to bring everybody else up, because they're going to look at him in the tunnel or look at him in the changing room or look at him in the parking and go, he's my captain, I don't want to let him down. I need to bring myself up to his level, even if they're not there ability-wise, but in terms of work rate, I think he brings so much more than just an individual quality to the side. I think he's just brilliant. I love him. Sorry, I love him.
He plays like it's that this game could be his last, and he knows that this could be taken away from him at any time. As you said, because obviously he got released at Celtic, went to Queen's Park, and he said we know the story, but he just knows that at any time that could all be taken away from him again.
Yeah,
absolutely. With regards to Scott McTominay, because we know now that both Gilmore is starting and also that Hanley's came back in, it looks as though he'll definitely be in a central midfield role tonight, Colin.
Yeah, well, I'd got him down as a wing back, but I think if what Craig was saying, I think Fraser might be the wing back, and McTominay will be playing in a midfield three, which will be probably suit him a bit more as well. Just gives us an extra bit cover as well, because I don't think Fraser's going to be doing too much defending, or you wouldn't think he would be doing too much defending. You want to see him, bombing up that right hand side, the same as Robertson should be doing it on the left hand side. So yeah, I think getting him and McGinn and Gilmore in the centre midfield will probably be one of our strongest midfields. But again, you look at the bench, McGregor's on there, Stuart Armstrong's there, Kenny McLean even as well. It's a strong midfield bench that we've got. So plenty of choices for Steve Clarke. But yeah, he's gone with those three.
In terms of McTominay, Craig, he's probably going to be massive just in terms of ball retention, but also dominating possession for Scotland.
Yeah, and he's very good at getting up and down the park, as we see him doing, week in, week out for Man United. He's one of these players that I think every team wants a big man in the middle of the park. In terms of it just gives you so much more in terms of, for one, his frame. He's almost, it's like trying to run in the truck at times. So when you see him, especially when you see him like shielding the ball out, no one gets near him. But he's also got quality on the ball that can carry us. If we're having to, face a period where the Faroes are whipping balls in the box, or we get the chance to break up the park. McTominay's got the quality to take us 15, 20, 30 yards up the park.
Do you think McTominay's a player calling that gets a bit of stick, a bit like what Robertson gets to a degree?
I think he does, and I think that's probably because of who he plays for. And again, it goes back to not sort of being seen as to replicating his form for his club as he does for his national side. But again, where he plays for his national side is slightly different to at club level as well. And again, the players he's playing with at club level is slightly different. Again, we're not trying to downplay the level of the Scottish national team, but there is obviously a difference in quality there. But it's again, I just think it's just because who he plays for, and it does get a little bit unwarranted. But it's just the typical Scottish thing, I think, as well, is that we sort of pick on these guys for maybe having one bad game out of 10, and after that they're a bad player. They're not a bad player. They just had a dip. But you usually recover, and that's Saturday was a kind of sign of that, because I think he was quite rightly criticised for his performance in the first half, and then he sort of made up for it with the winning goal, and everybody's sort of forgotten about it. So he wasn't going to give up on Saturday, and I don't think we should be giving up on him too quickly either.
I'm going to buy me a sell code. We're going to go to Grant Hanley. I mean, Craig gave us the perfect warm-up to Grant Hanley, and I'm going to let you take the main stage with just how brilliant it is he's returning.
What was said earlier about Grant, I kind of replicate, but no, I know I've seen a great improvement on him, like I think everybody else has as well. I think let's face it, he started in a really poor Scotland team, like a lot of them were when he first sort of broke into the national team. For him still to be there, still to be playing, and still playing at a reasonably high level as well, with his club side as well, just shows you how good he's been. He's kept himself relatively fit as well, which just obviously keeps himself going. But he just adds that extra bit of experience as well, and I think Steve Clarke likes him. I think that's why he keeps picking him, despite his advancing years, and he's the kind of perfect almost centre half, just to keep that back line in check. And I think you're right what we were saying earlier on. I think it was what was missing in it on Saturday, because we won. It didn't really matter too much, but I think he was definitely one of the ones that was going to get picked tonight.
We're curious of time here, so I'm going to go on to the 30 remaining defenders, or what we think is the remaining defenders in the system, and that's Kieran Tierney and Jack Hendry. We think it'll be a tried and trusted approach at three in the back with the two wing backs. And Craig, Tierney and Hendry, they were stick-ons to go to this team tonight.
Yeah, I think you've got there's probably three players you can hang your hat on that are going to start every game for Scotland if available, and it's Tierney, Robertson, and McGinn. They're, for me, the absolute three stick-ons that will play every game. So no, it's good to see the sticking with McTominay being the sort of auxiliary centre half when one of them isn't available. But no, I thought it was definitely always going to go back to the thing. Like I said, I don't think Hendry's brought himself up to a level now where I don't think he deserves to be dropped. Hanley definitely, as we've already covered, has been unbelievable for us under Steve Clarke. Just to touch on what Colin said as well, I think he was right that Hanley came in at a difficult time. He almost came in and was looked at as a successor to Colin Hendry because he was big. He was a big unit, a centre half that folk thought would just go and steamroll people. And he took he's had a hard time. I just had a quick look there. He never got. 2018 was the last time he played for Scotland before Steve Clarke started calling him up, and he's played 10 games this year already. So that shows you how important he is for Steve Clarke. So no, it was always going to go back to the tried and trusted, yeah.
Okay, we've not finished the defender, so because the wing back is technically a defender. So I think we need to speak about Ryan Fraser here. He's the player that's described as lazy, but he's probably got a big role to play tonight. Colin.
Yeah, I think he will do. As I said, I think most of the where we're going to get most of our joys down the wings. Robertson obviously one side, Fraser on the other. He'll obviously be keen to stand out and get a good performance because his new owners will be he'll be chopping in the door looking for a new contract just along with the money that they've got. So yeah, I think it's maybe ideal for him as well. Just to get himself back into the reckoning as well, and I think if we're going to get a lot of joy, it'll come from him and Robertson down either side.
Right, it's obviously a big night for Scotland, but I'm going to take a break for a couple of minutes because we've got to speak about a legend, and a legend he is called Sir Dick Campbell. And I've mentioned Sir because he is a Sir. He's not a Sir by biological name, but he's a Sir to us. Another richly deserved Manager of the Month award, Craig.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what he's done with Arbroath. I believe they're sitting third in the Championship at the moment.
Yeah.
And I listened to a clip just before we came on. Actually, a clip I think it was TFM that was interviewing him about it. And he said this is the 36th award he's had in 33 years. So he basically averages an award just under it every year. One of these, whether it be Manager of the Month, Manager of the Year, or whatever. And he said it doesn't matter what. He was like, everybody can say what they want. My objective is to finish third bottom. And I think that speaks volumes for him. He knows where. I mean, I'm sure in his mind he'll be having a wee dream to himself about potentially taking Arbroath, even to the playoffs at the end of the season. But for them to be talked about, even at this stage of the season, as having a chance of doing that, is testament to the job that he's done. And like you said, he's one of these sort of legendary figures of Scottish football that I think everybody likes. If you were to see, Dick Campbell's done an interview somewhere, or there's a podcast with Dick Campbell on it, you'd probably go to listen to it purely because it's him.
Well, I noticed something in the Courier just before it came on. Need to go and build he's got a hot tub, I think, in his house. I need to build like a mantelpiece, or I might be wrong here. I think you need to build a mantelpiece just because of the amount of accolades he's won with Arbroath Football Club. It just goes to show the job he's doing. But a big part of how Arbroath have done well is Joel Newbley and Michael McKenna, Colin.
Yeah, I think everybody at Arbroath probably have bought into what Dick's philosophy is, and they all want to play for him. And that's a mark of a true man manager. He gets the best out of his players. Let's face it, they're not household names. They're not brilliant players. They're probably not the best individual players in the Championship, but they work for him. They work hard. He gets them working hard, and it's almost like a respect thing. He demands certain things of his players, and they're quite happy to give it back because they know who they're working for, who their manager is, and they want him to do well. And I think secretly, everybody in Scotland wants to see him doing well, especially where Arbroath was when he took over, and just getting them that far up the league. Just say sitting about third at the moment, it's just a phenomenal achievement. Whether or not they're still there towards the end of the season, who knows? But another season in the Championship will certainly put him in good stead for next season.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of curses behind getting Manager of the Month awards, as we've noticed with Graham Alexander and Stevie Farrell in recent weeks. But also, one thing that you must look at from a Arbroath point of view is they've got Raith Rovers this Saturday, not an insurmountable task by any stretch of imagination, and they've got Ayr United and Dunfermline. You look at those type of games and you're looking for a minimum of 6 points, which would be hard to suggest if you're a part-time side. That there's no part-time mentality about Arbroath, Craig.
No, definitely not. And that's you saying there that they could be looking at a minimum of 6 points for Raith, Dunfermline and Ayr. Just goes to show you the level that that Campbell has taken them to. It's as I've seen in the Championship, when Hibs were there, these part-time teams aren't as easy to beat as what some might think. We had a torrid time against Alloa, through there. Equally, Dumbarton. I know the two of them have kind of fallen on tougher times recently. But for Dick to have them performing at the level that they are for such a sustained period of time as well, I think this will be maybe their fourth consecutive season in the Championship, third or fourth. That just goes to when they're competing with clubs with Dundee United were in there at the same time as them. Raith. You look at teams like Falkirk can't even get out League One, and he's managing to keep them relatively safe in the Championship. He's just done an unbelievable job with them.
But I think what that suggests, Colin, is, and you'll know this through obviously your dealings with Peterhead Football Club, when you've got a good background behind the scenes, not just to use the manager, but when you've got a good background behind the scenes in terms of a well-run club, a well-run board of directors, it goes a long way to how results go on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I think if you look at what's happening at Dunfermline, I think you've got so many people with so many different sort of opinions wanting the club to go one way and the fans wanting them to go the other. It just doesn't work. Whereas everybody at Arbroath seems to be pulling in the same direction. And I think they manage their expectations as well. I think they know if they finish third bottom, that's almost like winning the league for them. It just means they've got another season in the Championship, so that they just kind of manage their expectations. Anything higher than that is obviously going to be a bonus for them. Even a wee run in the cup or something like that would be a bonus for them. But yeah, everybody knows what they're doing, and as I said before, everybody wants Dick to do well, and everybody at the club wants Dick to do well as well.
I think just one more thing to touch on that I heard them say was that one thing. This is the sort of impact that Dick Campbell's had on Arbroath, the club and the town. He was saying that for his recruitment company, him and his brother do a lot of work up in Arbroath, and when they're out and about, they didn't see Celtic or Rangers tops or Arsenal, Man City. He says all the kids are running about in Arbroath tops, and that for me that just sums it up really, the impact that he's had not only in the club but in the town as well. That these younger kids are shunning the big clubs and looking to support their local team.
Absolutely. And one thing I'd like to point out before we go back to Scotland is Arbroath do have a fan zone at Gayfield Park. They normally have it in the enclosure side of the ground, and I've been covering a few Arbroath games this season, and it's absolutely fantastic. And they've got a group of young kids that go through the Arbroath Community Trust, and they're all there on a Saturday. I think I noticed very recently Joel Newbley and McKenna and other players were getting selfies with the young kids, but it just tells you the family feel about the club. But back on to Scotland, and we're going to focus on the more positive aspect. Defending is a lovely art, don't get me wrong, but let's focus on the midfield. And John McGinn, we'll look at John McGinn, Ryan Christie and Billy Gilmore. Obviously, as we've touched upon, a lot of surprise regarding Gilmore starting after all the chat that was happening in the lead up to the game. But McGinn, Christie and Gilmore's going to be massive for Scotland this evening, Colin.
Yeah, that's the creative outlet, as we said earlier on. I think when Christie came on Saturday, I think he obviously it showed that he deserved to kind of be in and around the team again. And once Adams was had pulled out the squad, I think Christie was almost like a stick on to replace him, because, as I said, I think if you want anybody playing off him, I think Christie would be the one. But we know what hit John McGinn. We know what he gives. It's a bit like Andy Robertson. You're going to get 110% from him. He gives his all, and the run of form that he's on with his goals just means that he's 100% a stick on for playing.
Absolutely. Craig, are you happy with that midfield setup?
Yeah, no, I am. I mean, if you want this to finish at 7, there's no way you better let me speak about John McGinn because I'll be here all night. But no, it's like I said, there was a partial bias for me wanting Nisbet to start, but I can see what Colin's saying about Christie. Christie will be really hard to pick up if he's sort of trying to go between the lines, if he's drifting off the right, if he's hanging about centrally. He's going to be an absolute nightmare to pick up. And him and McGinn alongside Gilmore is, it's almost, other than Adams, obviously would have preferred Adams to be fit, but you could arguably say that team tonight is player for player our strongest 11. You could toss up McGregor coming in for either one of Gilmore or McTominay. But for me, and Fraser as well. Fraser wouldn't make our strongest team as a right wing back, but in terms of the personnel available and the way that we've set up, I'm really looking forward to seeing this midfield tonight, especially John McGinn.
Absolutely. With regards to Craig Gordon, I mentioned the team earlier on with regards to who played against the Faroes back in 2006. It's probably credit to Craig Gordon in a way that he's still playing and still the Scotland number 1 15 years later, Colin.
Yeah, I think it's one of those kind of guys that, I was surprised that Celtic had let him go. I know he was, again, advancing kind of age, but did well at Hearts, and is quite rightly back as Scotland's number 1 again. I don't think there's a better keeper in Scotland at the moment. But yeah, players these days are a different breed from what they were 20 years ago. They keep themselves fit, they keep themselves active, and it's for him to still be playing at that kind of age. It's maybe a surprise that he's still playing at international level, but if he's playing well for his club, then why not? It's a different kind of breed these days. Players playing professionally and especially at international level, they keep themselves fit and they keep themselves going. So yeah, why not keep them going? As I said, I don't think there's a better keeper out there for us at the moment.
Right, it's time to jump into Lyndon Dykes, Fred. First and foremost, Craig, it's good that he's back playing, and he'll be looking to replicate his performance from Saturday with hopefully getting another goal, which could hopefully lead to 3 points for Scotland this evening.
Penalty aside, aye. As long as he plays the way that he does without another penalty, that is fine. I seen a stat the other day actually that he's now scored more goals in less games for Scotland than Lee Griffiths did.
Right, okay.
For a long period of time, people have been, well, certainly up to the Euros, folk were clamouring for him to get in the squad. But no, Dykes is very Marmite for me. I think you go on social media, at times, and I'm guilty of being one of them. When he took the penalty, I was on social media, get him off, that's shocking. Total reacting in the moment. But then it shows you what composure he's got and what mentality he's got to sort of dust himself down for that and get himself the vital equaliser on Saturday. Even the way that, and I think it'll give him a boost that it got. Obviously, VAR went in favour of us, because I think if it had been chopped off, he maybe would have went the other way. Whereas he showed his composure and his mentality to not only put himself in the position in the first place, but he was, when that ball came in, this boy's not getting it. I'm getting it. Whether he's throwing his head, his foot, his shoulder, his knee, whatever. If he sees a chance there and the ball's coming to him, he's going for it, regardless if he's going to get clattered in the way or get himself an injury. So he's definitely a vital, important player for us, and I think a lot of us, myself included, need to maybe calm down on the reactionary stuff when stuff just doesn't go our way.
Now, Kevin Nisbet's on the bench tonight, so who takes a penalty if we get a penalty tonight and Kevin Nisbet's not in the park?
McGinn.
Would you agree, Colin?
I would still give it to Dykes, because the one thing that we know about goal scorers is that they want to make up for their mistakes. Yes, he got the equaliser on Saturday, but I think if you're given another penalty, I think he'd want to step up. Hopefully, he's decided a different place to put it, because obviously everybody sort of knows where he likes to put it now. And hopefully he's been practicing and picked a different spot, because he needs to vary it up. And it sounds like a basic thing for any kind of penalty take up to do, but yeah, he needs to start varying them a little bit.
It's funny because if Scotland do get a penalty tonight and Dykes takes it, a lot the goalkeeper for Faroe Islands will look at this and go, okay, it's going down the middle, isn't it? Whilst Dykes can kind of play mind games to an extent, Craig.
Yeah, thinking about that way now, it could actually work. Like that's what happened with. Sorry to hark back to Hibs again, but Jason Cummins, when he done that dinked penalty against Dundee United, you know, when it got to the penalty shootout, the Dundee United
the playoff?
No, Scottish Cup semi-final.
Oh, I saw it was
when he dinked it, and obviously he took the winning penalty, and the Dundee United keeper was like, "What do I do? Is he going to try and do it again? And he probably took one of the worst penalties I've ever seen after it to win it." But you're right. It could play into the Faroe keeper's mindset. You know, I do think his last two penalties. I know they scored the one in Austria, but it was a poor penalty. It was lucky to go in. So let's just pick a corner and put your foot through it. I think if the keeper saves it for then on, you then need to tip your hat to the goalie. But if you're picking a corner, I don't like penalties going down the middle. That's just a personal thing. I think you should always pick a corner.
I think if you're putting penalties down the middle, you're almost... It's a safe option, I think, because 9 times out of 10, the keeper's going to dive. So as long as you get it on target, it's going to be a goal. But if you do it too often, as we saw on Saturday, it's going to get saved. And credit to the keeper, Israeli keeper. He obviously did his homework. And knew exactly where he was going to put it. But yeah, I think if you're going to be a decent penalty taker, you should be varying it a little bit.
Okay, a good question came in here. Thanks very much for sending your questions. Much appreciated, because it kills us 3 minutes remaining down. Darius Stone on Twitch saying, "Why does Scott McTominay not play in midfield?" I think what he's trying to say, Colin, is, why does Scott McTominay not play in midfield? So why is he better in defence, in other words? But by all accounts, a better midfielder. But one way I'd put across to what you're saying here, Darius, is he's probably good in either defensive or midfield side of things.
Yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying. I think he's too good a player not to pick. So you're almost sort of finding somewhere for him to play. I do prefer him to play in midfield. But in terms of like I started to say, was selection problems that Steve Clarke's got, but these are good selection problems, because there's so many players to pick from that he's obviously trying to shoehorn him into a position. Obviously, he didn't have his best game on Saturday, as we've said already. But you know, if he's going to play in defence or play in midfield, he's still one of our better players.
Right, we're going to get Arias. Are you ready to give a score prediction, or far too premature?
I'll let you go first, Greg.
I know we said we need to be sensible and not get carried away and blah, blah, blah. But, nah, I think, you know what? 1-0 will do me, because it's 3 points at the end of the day. But I'd like to see us go... With the quality we've got in the team, we could put 5-6 past them. So I'll go in the middle. I'll say 3-0.
Okay, Colin.
Yeah, I would be the same. I think if you got a 2-0 or something like that, we'd take it. But honestly, I think if it's going to be I think 4-0 would probably be a decent score.
Absolutely. I'm going to end this show by focusing on Nathan Patterson and Carl McGregor. Celtic fans are delighted, Craig, that Carl McGregor's not playing tonight. And you can understand why, but we've probably got a strong enough team for Carl McGregor not to be risked.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you look at McGregor's game time over the past 4, 5, 6 years, he's played an unbelievable amount of games. You know, so giving him a rest. I mean, I know the rest for Celtic's benefit, so I don't really care about that. But you know, it's not like we're playing an Austria where he's going to be needed. You know, he could be the last 25-30 minutes replacement for Gilmore to almost help see the game out.
Now, Nathan Patterson was better in the second half on Saturday. I'll put that out there. In the first half, we all understand he was not surplus to requirements, that's the wrong way to put it, but he wasn't the player that we know about Nathan Patterson. It was probably the right decision not to play Patterson tonight, Colin.
Yeah, I think it was. I think maybe Steve Clarke will look at his selection on Saturday and say maybe that was the one that he got wrong. I think, before Saturday's game, I think I said that O'Donnell would have been starting at right back just because he gives that little bit more kind of defensive kind of cover. You know, Patterson's good going forward. O'Donnell maybe isn't that good going forward, but defensively, I think O'Donnell's slightly better. And I think that's one that maybe Clarke thinks he maybe got wrong. So much so that he's playing neither O'Donnell or Patterson tonight. So just shows how much I know.
Absolutely. That's all we've got time for. Obviously, a big one coming up tonight. Hopefully, Scotland get the job done, meaning we've got a happy trio on the show tomorrow night. It might even be a quadruple, actually, on the show tomorrow night. But thank you very much. Here's hoping we can get the job done in the Faroes tonight and enjoy the game whenever you're watching. And I'll see you tomorrow night.